Hi, this is Debbie Hodge from GetItScrap.com with Lesson 3 from the Scrapbook Coach class on a shelf. Alright, this is our third shelf lesson, and today we're making a shelf with 3 photos on it. The focal point photo is going to be 6 inches wide by 4 inches high. That's exactly the same size that the focal point photo was when we made a layout with one shelf and when we made a layout with one photo on a shelf and a layout with 2 photos on a shelf. So find your focal point photo, 6 inches by 4 inches, and then 2 accent photos. I've got a small square, one of them should be a square, and then the other one's going to be a smaller landscape. Mine is about 4 inches by 2.5 inches. And you'll cluster them in the center of your page, and actually they should sit, I've divided the page into 3 bands. They should sit just below, so they're just bopping down into the bottom third. They're really consuming a lot of the middle third, and then the square one will come up into the top third. So it's a triangular arrangement. Sort of going to be a pyramid sitting on a shelf. So crop your photos, and then put a white mat under both of the small accent photos. Again, I like to do that just because I'm clustering them and I want to be able to define where one photo stops and one photo starts. I want to also point out there's this idea of the rule of thirds. This idea of when you divide your page into thirds horizontally and vertically, you've got like a tic-tac-toe board and you've got intersections. And if you take a look now, I've got all 3 of my photos each one of them is on at least one of those points. So that's where the action of our photo is. Now we'll get ready to add our shelf. In the first lesson with one photo, we made a really solid shelf out of strips of paper. In the second lesson, we made it a little bit airier, stepping down, narrower strips. Things weren't so heavily overlapping. And in this lesson, we're going to put our items on a shelf that's made up of shapes. I'm going to use banner shapes. And I'd suggest you do that because they're nice and solid and regular and easy to work with. However, you could, and maybe you'll want to do this after you do the banner, you could use a series of circles, you could use really deep scallops, you could use hearts. But the idea is we're going to put our shelf on a series of shapes. And you're going to punch those shapes from pattern paper. So I want you to pick out one pattern paper that has at least 2 colors in it, maybe 3 colors, and then pick out one of those colors and get another pattern paper that has that color in a tone-on-tone. So what I mean is I picked out this pattern paper for my banners that's got green and blue and sort of a mustard in it. It's even got multiple tones of blue in there. And I took that off of this hat right here. I loved that, and I loved the idea that green with this blue feels icy. The whole thing feels icy and snowy because this is a skiing page. So pick a pattern paper for your banners or your shape that has at least 2 colors in it and a neutral, or even 3 colors and a neutral. And punch your shapes and arrange them below your photos. Now I pointed out when we arranged the photos that we put them just a little bit below, bopping down into the bottom third. The other thing is there's about a 1-inch margin on either side. So I have pretty regular equal margins on either side. So go with that also. And then place your banners below your photos. I started just a little bit in from the left and I went a little bit beyond from the right. I don't like things to be totally matchy-matchy and lined up. My second pattern paper is green and cream. So I took the green from this multicolor print and then I used it with a neutral. And when you do that, cut a strip, and you actually want to cut the strip a little crooked. See how I've got a diagonal here? And this is my page border. I often find when I'm making shelves I've got a lot of white space up on the top, and without a border or some kind of embellishment cluster. In the first lesson we put an embellishment cluster up at top left. In the second lesson we put an embellishment cluster over here at side right. I like something up there to keep the eye contained within the page. So in this lesson we're going to use pattern paper that's 1 color with a neutral. Now you're going to pick one more pattern paper and cut a strip of it. And this pattern paper should be a different color, a color that's not in any of your other pattern papers and that contrasts strongly and that's either tone on tone or tone on white. This is the only place that color is going to appear. I used this orange and white paper and I cut a strip, slid it up under my photos. This is the only spot this really high contrast color is going to appear. So go find a nice high contrast color, cut a strip, layer it over your shape and slide it just a little bit up under the photos. And if you'll notice, I had my banners slide a bit off to the right. I didn't align them. And this is going to slide a bit off to the left. Once you get that strip, pick out a neutral base upon which your photos and your pattern papers pop. I'm using a gray. A lot of scrapbooking, a lot of getting your pages and your story onto the page is about allocating the space for the main basic elements of a scrapbook page. And those are photos, title, journaling, and embellishments. We've got our photos. We'll put the embellishments on last, so we need to figure out where we're going to put our title and our journaling. And I'd like to, for me, and I'd like you to do this, I'm going to fit you can either fit your title or your journaling right in here, and then the other one right down here. And I'm going to use a label down here for my journaling, because I'm not going to have real extensive journaling on this one. And then I want to fit my title in here. The thing is, I do not want my title to be matchy-matchy with the top of this photo right here. And I don't really want it to go above, though that might work. So I need my title to stay below because I want things to step down. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge. And I want my title to go at least 3/4 of the way across this photo because we've got a stepping thing going on here. So I don't want it to go all the way to the end here. And I don't want it to, it might work if it's really short, but it's got to come at least, for my photo, it's got to come at least to his hand. It's not going to look good before that. So this is a ski page, and ski is a pretty short word. And I got some alphas out. I played around with it, moved it around, tried to figure out where it would work best, and that actually took me a while. Because see right here, it's pretty even with that. I don't like it. Can't go over his head. I could reverse these, maybe use a narrower journaling label and put the journaling label under the photo. And put the title down here, but the title doesn't pop down here because I've got really busy papers. So I think I'll keep my journaling down here. The key is going to be, where am I going to put my title? I could actually overlap it a little bit right here. This is short. Do I want to leave that out there? I really kind of want something here. So something I often do when I make my titles to figure out things is I start thinking of adjectives. And I was thinking, let's see, this was a teacher workshop day. It was a free day. It was actually an unexpected ski day because ski club had been canceled and they realized they couldn't make it up. So the ski slope said we could come and use our ski club tickets. So it was a free ski, an unexpected ski. And the other thing is we usually ski at night. So I realized it was a daytime ski, which was different because they were able to go on different slopes. So I decided to use daytime. The word daytime, and I wanted some little alphas to go here. And I ended up going with some little alphabets that look sort of like a Dymo label. And I fit them in there. So my title's going to go right here. A couple things to note. It's not going all the way to the end of the photo. It's not going as high as this photo here. It's in 2 colors, and the colors come from this pattern paper sheet. Do not use this color right here. Okay? You could use a neutral, but you need something that'll pop, and the colors should come preferably from this pattern paper right here. All right, now we're going to embellish with 2 scatter-light clusters, and I'm going to show you an easy way that's almost formulaic to do this. And I know that sprinkle clusters can seem intimidating sometimes because they need to appear kind of random, like you threw them out on the page, and yet you need the right variety and the right repetitions. So we're going to do repetitions of circles and we're going to do them in two colors, and those are going to be two colors that come from this pattern paper down here. I'm using blue and green. So I would like you to get 3 green buttons and 3 blue buttons, and they should be in two sizes. I went with 3/4 inch green buttons, a blue 3/4 inch, and then 2 1/2-inch blues. So go find 3 buttons in one color, 3 buttons in another color, and 4 of them should be about the same size, and 2 of them should be a little smaller than that. So once you've found them, we're going to make our clusters. So we're going to have a cluster up here, and that's going to have 2 items in it. 2 of one color, and then a third of another color. And then down here, we're going to use, you're going to have two of one color and 2 of another. I'm going to say green and blue because that's what I'm using. So see how easy it all of a sudden becomes? I've got 2 green, 1 blue up here, 2 blue, 1 green down here. Each cluster has green, each cluster has blue, each cluster has circles, each cluster has 2 different size buttons. So you're going to place them. And we've got our sprinkles. And now I want you to go punch a circle out of felt. We're actually going to punch 2 circles out of felt or out of paper, and we're going to layer a circle behind one of the buttons in the cluster. And those circles should be 2 different sizes. I cut my circles out of blue felt. One of the circles is about, let's see, 1.5 inches, and the other circle is just a little bit smaller than that. It's about 1 inch, maybe a little bit more than 1 inch. And I stitched around one of them. You could use blue marker to go around it. You could ink the edge of it. So give your bigger one a little bit of definition. So you're choosing one of the colors, and you're going to punch circles out of them. One of the circles is about 1.5 inches, one of the circles is about 1 inch. And then just layer those behind one item in each cluster. Look at that. You've got your sprinkles. How easy was that? All right, the last step is to add your journaling to the page. And I added mine to the label that I'd placed down here and called it done. So this is a page with 3 photos on a shelf. We used a pattern paper with multiple colors, at least 2, maybe even 3, and then a pattern paper with one of those colors and a neutral up here, and we put it on a diagonal, and that's our border that's keeping the eye back down in on the page. We added a strip of pattern paper that's a different color, and it's the only spot that this high contrast different color sits. We arranged our photos in what I think of as a triangle or a lopsided pyramid, and we added the journaling above the photo, but we made sure not to let the journaling go as high as this photo because the goal is a stepped down arrangement. We then added clusters of sprinkles, a sprinkling of 3 buttons up here, sprinkling of 3 buttons down here, so we have a downward diagonal flow from top left to bottom right. We put a felt circle under a button in each cluster. The goal is to get repetitions with variety. The color blue is repeated, the shininess of these 2 buttons is repeated, the texture of this button and the fabric is repeated, and we've got just a nice rhythm, a nice flow. So that is your 3 photo shelf page. In the next lesson, we'll put 4 photos on the shelf.